it's Andrea Strang from Gallery222. I hope people are tuning in. This is our second table talk. So I'm here with Rachel Altschuler. I'm going to get to her later, but I just want to explain for people who are first tuning in that maybe do not know what we do at Gallery222. This is a gallery talk. So pretty much it's just when we have a showing artist come in and explain all her process, you know, her story behind the art. So if you're tuning in and you know nothing about art, please stay. It shouldn't be too long, but I hope you find it interesting. So we are here with Rachel Altschuler. Thank you for coming. I just want to give her a little background. So she holds a BFA in art studio and an MA in art education from Coastal Carolina, where she attended with an art scholarship. She shows locally here in Philadelphia and Colorado and Maine. So she's extremely collectible. Her collectors love her. So the one thing I want to start out with, which was really a hot buzz for you, was British Vogue.
Yeah.
How did you end up how does that happen?
So I guess this was back maybe in like September. And I had gotten an email from somebody with British Vogue, and some other artists probably have had this happen to them, but we get a lot of like junk mail or like spam mail, or, you know, people looking to buy art. So anyway, and it doesn't ever pan out. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh, this isn't for real. You know, this is fake. But then as I was reading it, I'm like, I think this is legit. So then when I responded, you know, they gave me, and when I said I was interested, they gave me some more information on what they were doing. And so they were doing an international art campaign where they were reaching out to artists from all over the world. And just, you know, I got to kind of choose. We went back and forth about some of the pieces I was going to put in there, but I was able to choose 3 pieces. The first of which was Athena, which was cool because I sold that with you guys. So yeah, I mean, they contacted me. I'm still not really sure how they found me. I'm guessing it's on Instagram, but yeah, so I mean, I was actually shocked when it turned out to be a legit thing, but very excited.
Yeah. So I have to mention, Athena was bought by a friend of mine who's also an author who had a book signing at Gallery. So yep. Libby Piper, her book is Honeysuckle Hugs. It's a children's book. It has to do with nature and connecting with nature. Her friend Renee Fox, that's photographed right there. She was an illustrator. She's a very talented artist in California. So the fact that it was, you know, an artist supporting artists, that's what I love. That's Gallery222. That's
absolutely.
You know,
and then I loved figuring out later, because as artists, sometimes we don't always know where our work goes, you know, when it sells or whatever.
Right.
And then I couldn't believe when you told me later that not only did she live in Westchester, but she's like my neighbor. So we've been in touch, and that's just been a really cool thing. And she gave me a signed book, and you know, which is amazing. I would recommend that book to anybody. It's like a great Easter present too. So yeah, so that was really cool and very special.
Yes. Oh, great. So let's talk owls. Yes. You know, Athena's an owl. I didn't realize there was such a love for owls by everybody. I mean, I guess it does evoke nature. You choose to paint owls and all your feathered friends in a portrait style. Like, why that? Not put it on a tree or put it in a landscaping. Why'd you choose that?
You know, when I first started painting early on, I would include a lot of like background. So trees, leaves, flowers, and I liked it. But I felt like the more I kind of zoomed in and started cropping them and almost making them, like whenever people ask me about my work, sometimes I tell them, I'm like, I paint birds. And like, if you can imagine, it's like a bird at school picture day. So, but I feel like the reason for the portrait style is because when you zoom in and you are only able to see like the face or maybe a little bit of the body. You really have to look at the eyes and the expression. And I feel like they just evoke so much more of a reaction that way when you can really get into like looking for their personality and, you know, looking for those unique characteristics that especially owls can have. There's so much symbolism with owls, and that's kind of what got me started. You know, they symbolize wisdom, guardianship, they're like protectors. And so in my mind, I always kind of feel like whenever somebody buys one of my owls in particular, I envision them kind of like watching over the house and, you know, kind of protecting the family and, I don't know, putting out some good energy.
Yes. So I know that Jan bought one of your owls. I think we have a play-by-play with an owl that she now owns. Jan Ware is a mutual friend of us, but also a showing artist at Gallery 222. So we're sticking with the artist supporting artist theme.
Yes.
And so she is right there. She was such a great, or she is such a great supporter of you.
Oh my God, I love Jan.
Yeah,
Jan, I'm such a fan. I was a fan of Jan's work before we started a friendship. And I just love the way she uses texture, color. I actually have one of her pieces that I decided to design my whole entire kitchen around. My husband and I are renovating our house right now, and I fell in love with it. And the owl painting that she bought for me, I actually named it after her husband. So that one's name is Pat. Hi, Jan, if you're watching, love you. And I know I purchased a piece for her next show, which you guys are showing in April. There she is. That's Honey Bunny. So that's my piece. But I think it's a really special thing. I mean, we're Chester County and the Main Line area, I feel like there is so much local talent. And so, you know, for me, I feel inspired every day by these people who are now my friends, you know, all these other artists. And so I've been a collector of their work for a long time. And I think it's great how everybody kind of supports each other and inspires each other.
Yeah. And that's the one thing about Gallery 222. We open each show with an artist reception. So it's like, you know, a family reunion of sorts a lot of times at the receptions.
Absolutely.
So that's also
I
really
love coming to Gallery 222, and obviously for the work, but for that too, it's like such an amazing social like event whenever you guys have an opening. It's so much fun. I always look forward to them. Yeah. So it's a shame we couldn't do that this time, but obviously this is fun too. This is my first time doing this.
Yeah. Right.
Which is also what I love about 222. You guys are always willing to kind of adapt and like make changes. And so I think this is amazing that you guys are doing this. And I know you will probably do this. You're doing this for your next show. So I'll be excited for that too. Yeah. Like new territory for me.
Yeah. It is. It's for all of us. Thank God I have a talented marketing team.
Yes.
CS Graham Group. But yeah, so I love it. Now, one thing I forgot to mention early on is to put in questions for Rachel, because again, part of a gallery talk is having an interaction with who's watching. When we did it in person, a lot of the audience is filled with other artists or collectors, and it's questions back and forth. So feel free to put questions in the comments, and I'll get to it. It'll probably be a little delayed with everything, but we'll try to get them. I
have to apologize for the noise. My vacuum cleaner just started, and so if you hear that noise, I don't know why. It's like one of those little Dysons that does the Roombas. And we don't know if anybody knows how to turn those electronic things off. Let me know. It goes off in the middle of the night, and right now it's going off. So I apologize. Anyway, I'm sorry, Andrea. Go ahead.
That's great. We're not having technical difficulties.
What can we do?
Let's talk your tufted titmouse birds, Claire and Ophelia. Oh my goodness. Claire is the sweetest. Talk about, I know you touched on the whole personality thing, but I think it truly shines through with Claire. And her colors, and again, the way you quiet the background, I think is just very, very smart of you. So go on about personality, because you can just tell.
Yeah, so this piece in particular, I had seen, so I always, just to kind of backtrack for anybody that doesn't follow me, or if this is your first time hearing about my work, I always work from a photograph. And so a huge part of my process is working with wildlife photographers. The photos aren't always my own. Sometimes I have to reference more than one. This photo in particular, I had seen by a photographer. Her name is Claire. And then that's why I named her Claire, because after her. And so once I just, it was like, sometimes when I see a photo, I think about it for a while. I don't always just paint it right away. And this was one that just stuck with me. I mean, I was like mulling over this for months. And so, but what I loved about it was, I just feel like, so it's a tufted titmouse. And if anybody has those around, I mean, they're all over the place right now in Chester County, but they're so friendly and they're so sweet. And what I loved about this one is that it's almost kind of mysterious. Like, it's mysterious, but she's a little bit cheeky, and there's just so much personality coming through that photograph. And I think I mulled over it for so long because I wanted to make sure I did the photo justice. And I felt like, oh my gosh, if I'm going to try this, I have to get it right. And so I was really happy that finally, when I did go to paint it, that it kind of came to fruition in a good way. I was really pleased with it when I was finished.
Oh, I love it. It's one of my favorites.
Thank you.
So I do have to say hi to Jackie Kane.
Hi,
she's
Jackie!
Part of our little family. She takes classes at Randy's classroom. Randy's tuning in. Marianne Riker, Jackson, love it. So Ted Dubois wants to know what was your motivation for painting Bernie and Elmer? Any role whatsoever, or Elmer
for
play?
Painting, say it again. Which one?
What was your motivation for painting? Maybe there should be a Bernie and Elmer play any role whatsoever. Bertie and Elmer.
Bertie and Elmer. I don't know. Is that a specific people? Well, Elmer is my dog. Hi, Ted, by the way. Hi, Ted and Kristen. Those are our good friends. I have painted, I gifted them for their wedding. So they actually have a tufted titmouse painting that I gave them for their wedding. So maybe that's the piece that he's representing. But so the piece that I had originally painted for them, I wish we had it so we could show it, but it was a very similar, I feel like, it was a similar piece to Claire. So it was just really sweet, just really colorful, kind of like what I love about those paintings are sometimes, like with a tufted titmouse, they get the rainbow of colors. I mean, they're like pastels, and when you look within all the shadows, there's blues, grays. Oh, there's Ophelia. So when I look for a photograph to reference, I always keep that in mind. Like, the light matters when I see like different colors within the shadows, and then I think to myself, how can I start layering that on? I feel like I didn't answer your question, Ted, but I hope that maybe that gave you a little insight. And hope you guys are staying safe and doing well.
Yeah. So now Randy wants to know, wants you to explain your brush strokes. He's intrigued with your brush strokes.
So it depends. I have a couple of brushes that I love. I love to use like a flat brush. I love a filbert brush, which is kind of like a rounded flat brush. And it depends now. I feel like I have special brushes for different types of feathers. But really the trick with my brush strokes and the feathers is it's really just layering the paint. And that took a long time. I mean, when I first started painting, anybody that knows my early work, it almost had no texture. It was completely flat. It was very like photorealism, and they were okay, but I felt like they were really missing that punch. Cause I love to collect paintings that have texture. And so when I started that journey, I kind of started playing around, and if you time them right with acrylics, because acrylics dry really fast. And so it's not like oil paint where you can just lay on texture and then the next day they're still gonna be wet, and the next day, and you can, you know, blend them. With acrylic, you have to kind of have a plan before you get started. And so as far as the brush strokes go, for the most part, I feel like my best brush strokes are done wet on wet, only because and with enough pressure. I wish I could, like, if I had my easel, I could like demonstrate, but really I get most of my feathered textures with like a large flat brush or a filbert, always wet on wet. I hope that was helpful, but
Okay.
the best way I
Great.
can
do have
describe it.
No, I think you did a great job. So I have another question. Megan McGee. Hi, Rachel.
Hey, Meg.
Long-time admirer. First-time question asked. How do you get into the zone while painting? Do you have a studio? Do you play music, light a candle? What's your secret?
So yes to all of those. I have a studio. I'm obsessed with candles. Meg is a good friend of mine. And so the way I get into the zone, and my husband knows, I have to be like fully alone with no disturbances. So I have to be like in my own little space with the door closed. I can't have any distractions. Sometimes I listen to music. Sometimes it's not like a music day and I just need background noise. I can't paint in total silence. Right now I was working out of my dining room. And then because we're renovating, I moved up to a bedroom upstairs. And so I have like a little cave up there now that I've been working, but I don't mind it. It's nice and it's private. So thanks for your question, Meg.
Oh, that's great. Oh, good. So let's talk hummingbirds.
Yes.
Both Willow and Blossom sold. So there's definitely, you're onto something with them. I would think they would be a little more challenging, giving them a personality, or what's your take on that?
I don't find them challenging. I think it's difficult. Well, first of all, it's hard to find really strong reference photos of hummingbirds because they move so quickly. So it takes a really skilled photographer to even capture a still shot of a hummingbird that you can see that detail. And so I go back and forth. Hummingbirds are the only birds I actually paint full body, like Willow, for example. There's times where I go back and forth about, do I do the hummingbird in portrait style, or is it a stronger feeling if it's in flight? Willow in particular, I felt like needed to be in flight. But no, I think it really just depends on, I don't find them to be any more challenging or difficult to bring out the personality. It really just depends on the quality of the photo for me.
Okay, great. So this is a great question. I'm always curious in asking your whole journey. I mean, it's so hard to be a full-time artist. So here you are teaching, right? You taught at Villa for a number of years. Like, when did you break out? What was that journey, that transition like? Do you miss teaching?
Yeah, I was at Villa Maria, which for anybody who's following that isn't local to the area, they're an all-girls private high school outside of the Philadelphia area, and it was my first job out of college, and I loved it. I just always felt like teaching wasn't, like, I was always more of an art, and I was an art teacher, I should clarify. I always felt like I was always more of an artist than a teacher, which in my opinion, to be an art teacher, you need to be both, but I was like 90% artist, 10% teacher, and I loved it. But I felt like after 5 years for me, I just felt that like desire to break free. And I thought to myself, the good thing about teaching is that you can always go back to it. And so in my mind, I felt like if I didn't just try to do this full time, I would always regret it. And so in 2012, I left that job, and then I just kind of started going around to local galleries. There's so many in Chester County, so we're fortunate that way, and certainly the main line area and the city. And I started just kind of getting back to painting, because when I was teaching for those 5 years, I wasn't working really on my own work as much. Like, I was doing commission work, I was doing pet portraits. I mean, I was doing everything under the sun to just try to make ends meet. But I mean, I think the biggest challenge for artists that are thinking about doing this full time, especially when they're younger, like I was at that time, it's like, well, what's my thing gonna be? What's gonna get me in a gallery, and what's gonna make me different, especially in a place like this where there's so much local talent. And so that took me a while to kind of figure out what it was that I wanted to focus on, because I love animals. I've always loved animals ever since I've, you know, been a kid. And then, so one of the first things I actually started doing was I started painting. I was collecting this reclaimed barnwood, and I was doing a lot of work with it and painting on it. And then I actually started painting like little birds on planks of reclaimed barnwood. And I was working with a local shop, Cottage Home in Westchester. And so I started selling those there, and they were, you know, they got popular. And the more I was painting them, I'm like, how else can I develop this? And I was really enjoying it. So then I just started painting a couple birds in acrylic on canvas, like in portrait style. So it was funny because it was almost kind of like a blend of like the pet portrait and then the bird on barnwood into like birds in portrait style. So it was funny the way that kind of came about. But I feel like because it wasn't forced, I really was like, I tried to be really self-aware in that time period and not force what I thought I should be showing, and stay true to what I felt like I would enjoy doing and what was different. So yeah, so then I started showing at a local gallery in Westchester, and the rest is history.
Right, I know, you're killing it, girl. I mean, this is our second time showing your work. Last year, I was extremely successful. This year, given everything, I think we have 5 sold. So, I mean, to me, I'm so
grateful
pleased.
for. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting this show. I mean, I know this wasn't our first choice to do this, but I just want to say thank you to everybody who's supported me through this over these past few weeks.
Oh, and I do want to mention this. We came across this on your feed. I love this cute little story.
Oh
so
my
tell
gosh.
us about this.
This was, I mean, I was so blown away by this. So so when, of course, when it all came full circle, because when people ask me, they're like, how long have you been painting birds? I'm like, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years. I'm like, no, it's been way longer than that. So when I was I think I was in 4th or 5th grade, and I entered, like every year they did the school activities calendar. And so anybody that wanted to submit a drawing, you know, whatever first place got the cover of the school calendar. So I was like hell bent on winning the contest that year. And I even remember, like, I would torture my art teacher every day. I'm like, did you pick a winner? Did they pick a winner? You know? And so finally when I won, they published it. But anyway, so that picture is Edith Stevenson, who was my art teacher, and she taught until she retired, I think not too long ago. And she's an artist. She shows at local galleries. So we actually bumped into each other last year for the first time, like since I was in 5th grade. And I seriously almost cried when I saw her. I couldn't believe it. And she even remembered, she's like, I remember you. And I remember when you did the calendar, and she even remembered the title of it, you know. So it was just, so the picture at the bottom right is she and I we met at a gallery, another local gallery in Chester County. And so we had to take that picture together. And then I found the calendar, which was even better. I was just like, couldn't believe it. Of course, my mom had it saved all these years. It's insane, but.
Yeah, and it's a bird. And it's a bird. That's what I got a kick out of.
I know. It's so weird.
You were on this destined path.
I was like the weirdest kid. What kid decides they want to paint a turkey buzzard?
Yes. Let's see if we have any questions before we wrap it up. Robin Nunes thinks your birds are beautiful. Jackie Middleton loves your work. So this is all good stuff. So I want people, we should say you can shop online. We are technically open online now. And literally it's 3 clicks and you can, buy it. So it's an easy, friendly website. So it's Gallery222 Malvern.com. So please support these artists. I do want to make a point that artists like Rachel work all year long for a show. So that's why I felt like I couldn't disappoint and postpone it. I really, we're forging ahead, and it's really about all their work and how they should be celebrated. So I just want to make that. We will be talking to, there may be another question, but I'm going to tell you our next Wednesday, we have Matthew Doherty. We're going to be table talking with him next week. Oh wait, I think we do have another question. Don't go anywhere.
Breaking news, people.
Right. You have gorgeous flamingos. Can you tell us about capturing their colorful essence and if you painted them from photos? Jackie Kane wants to know about your flamingos.
First of all, hi Jackie. I hope you're doing well. So I think I painted my first flamingo. Gosh, was that a year ago? Maybe a year and a half ago. And I had been wanting to paint one for so long, but I was hesitant because like they're so pink and red and the colors are so vibrant. So for me, it was really, I had never painted a bird that was so predominantly like pink and fuchsia. So I mulled over that for a while. And I remember even the first one I painted, I started it and I wasn't happy with it. I went back to it again. And so I feel like for this piece, Floor, which I have with you guys now, I kind of had a better plan about how to tackle that. I feel like flamingos I'm still kind of like figuring them out, and there's so much more I want to work on with them. But I mean, I just think they're so unique. I love the color palette. I think they're so fun. They're a nice pop of color for like any room in your house. And they're just, to me, they're also kind of feminine. So, and pink's my favorite color. So
yeah, it all works.
It all works.
Everything you are doing works. So keep it up. Then if anyone has more questions, still go with the comments and Rachel will be happy to reply to you. Yes. But I think we're going to be signing off. Again, thank you, Rachel, for your time and your talents.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And stay safe.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Andrea.